it how it should be today. Most of the investments that we've been making are about getting it up to our standards.
Well, I think you're going to make an investment, but you're going to get your money back very quickly, and that's part of our thing. We're going to have you get your money back fast, and then you'll give a lot to Venezuela and to the United States after that. Okay, so you'll be in good shape. Could I ask Harold Hamm to say a few words? He's been a friend of mine for a long time. Very amazing man, actually, amazing energy person.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. It's good to be here with so many dignified people. And this effort particularly, and thank you for your effort for what you've done here, taking this despot out of that area. And the world dealt with him way too long. Certainly our industry knows that this is a real jewel that can be developed for the people of Venezuela and also benefit the world. And like Secretary Wright said, it has not been done. That's not been done in the past, and they had a good chance at it. Brought someone in that totally took it down, as everybody knows here, and that was Chavez, and we know what happened to him finally. But you know that ruined the industry in Venezuela, and all of us know how that ended very well, very wrongly. So anyway, we're glad to see what's happened here and look forward for the opportunity for a lot of people in this room, but also for America and the country itself.
Are you going to be involved in going in? Because, you know, he's in North Dakota and he's in Oklahoma and some incredible places. It's a little bit different, but there's no doubt about you won't have to worry about the straw too much here. You can just go at it. Are you going to be one of the participants?
Well, certainly, you know, I'm an oil finder, like you said. You know, Barry Spitzer, you know, told that story.
The coach.
And he's kind of exaggerated a little bit. It doesn't come out quite that easily usually. But anyway, great story. I love it. And I love Barry.
Barry's the one that told me this.
Yeah, he's a champion, you know, in a lot of ways. So love that story. Certainly, it excites me as an explorationist. You know, everybody has that in their blood, and you know, it is a very exciting country and a lot of reserves, and so it's got its challenges and. The industry knows how to handle that, and like Darren said, you know, you go into your eyes open and do the best you can with the team you got. So
well, you're going to have something that they never had really here is tremendous security. You're going to be very secure, very safe, physically safe, in addition to financially safe. So it's good to see you, Harold. Thank you very much. Does anybody have anything to say before we get to the press?
What does Cuba have to do to avoid the same fate as Venezuela? What does Cuba have to do?
Well, Cuba's in bad shape. Cuba relied on Venezuela for oil and for money, and nobody really knows what's going to happen with Cuba. They're doing very poorly. They're really third world all the way, and we have a lot of great Cuban Americans, and I would say Marco fits very solidly into that category. And I might ask you to say a few words about, we were discussing it before, Cuba is a very different, they don't have energy, they don't have oil, but they would live off of the oil from Venezuela, and what they do have is very strong people and very powerful people militarily, and they would protect the people running Venezuela, and they would take in a lot of money from Venezuela. Now they don't have that. They won't be taking in any money. So, Marco, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the fundamental problem in Cuba is that it's run by incompetent people that don't know what an economy looks like, much less a functioning one. They've made a choice, and that is they would rather have political control over their people than they would have an economy that functions. And they've gotten away with it for 60-something years because they've had donors, the Soviet Union, and now most recently Venezuela. But that's now gone. So the people in control in Cuba have a choice to make. They can either have a real country with a real economy where their people can prosper, or they can continue with their failing dictatorship that's going to lead to systemic and societal collapse. So it's a very stark and dramatic choice, and it's one we hope to make the right one. We don't have an interest in a destabilized Cuba, but that would be their fault because they refuse to allow the people of Cuba to have either economic or political freedom for that matter.
And you have a lot of people in this country that want to go back to Cuba and help Cuba. A lot of people have left, they came in penniless, they didn't have anything, and they become very rich people in our country, and they want to very much go back and help Cuba. So that's something that Cuba has that a lot of other places don't have. Peter?
President Trump, thank you. I do want to ask you about Minnesota, but first, just more on topic. President Zelensky said that he was watching with the rest of the world as you made this order to go and capture Nicolas Maduro. And he said, if that's how it works with dictators, then the United States knows what to do next. Sounds like he wants you to go and capture Vladimir Putin. Would you ever order a mission to go and capture Vladimir Putin?
Well, I don't think it's going to be necessary. I think we're going to have I've always had a great relationship with him. I'm very disappointed. I settled 8 wars. I thought this would be in the middle of the pack or maybe one of the easier ones. And I don't know if you know, Peter, the last month, they lost 31,000 people, many of them Russian soldiers, and the Russian economy is doing poorly. I think we're going to end up getting it settled. I wish we could have done it quicker because a lot of people are dying, and mostly soldiers. They get hit in Kiev and they get hit a little bit here and there, and people are dying there too. But largely, it's the soldier population. When you have 30,000, 31,000 soldiers dying in a period of a month, 27,000 the month before, 26,000 the month before that, that's bad stuff. So, as you know, President Biden gave $350 billion to Ukraine to fight, and we would never get that back, although I did make a rare earth deal to get it back, so we will be getting it back, but shouldn't have done that. It was a bad thing to do. I will say that right now, because I was able to get NATO to up GDP from 2% to 5%, NATO's got a lot of money, and they're paying for everything. We're not losing any money. We're making a lot of money, I guess, if you think of it, because we're selling them military equipment. They're probably giving it to Ukraine. But we're selling them to NATO military equipment. We're getting full price and all of that. But that's not a big deal to me. What is a big deal is stopping a war where 30,000 people are being killed every single month.
On Minnesota, the vice president yesterday suggested that Renee Good, who was killed by this ICE officer, was part of a broad left-wing network. What has your team told you about this broad left-wing network? Who is in charge of it? Who's part of it? What's it called?
Well, I haven't seen the vice president's statement, but he's generally very accurate. I hate to say. Look, I watched that yesterday, and there were a lot of different forms to it. But there was a woman screaming, "Shame, shame, shame, shame." She was a agitator, probably a paid agitator, but in my opinion, she was an agitator, a very high-level agitator, so professional. She wouldn't stop screaming. I said, this isn't a normal situation. This is a professional troublemaker, because you heard it and I had it. Now, I will say this. The news sort of turned her down, turned her off, because you're trying to watch. She was so loud and so crazy and just not normal. When somebody sees something like that, they don't go screaming and the same words. So I guess you could say professional, but I didn't think she did a very good job. You have agitators, and we will always be protecting ICE, and we're always going to be protecting our Border Patrol and our law enforcement. Yeah.
In your conversations with these oil executives today, did you provide any security guarantees so that they can do their work safely in Venezuela? Yeah. And separately, Mr. President,
they will have those guarantees, yes.
And separately, Mr. President, I'm curious in terms of the future of Venezuela. Do you see Venezuela, now led by Delcy Rodriguez, as an ally of the U.S.? Is that the way that you view that country right now?
Well, right now they seem to be an ally, and I think it'll continue to be an ally, and we don't want to have Russia there. We don't want to have China there. And by the way, we don't want Russia or China going to Greenland, which if we don't take Greenland, you're going to have Russia or China as your next-door neighbor. That's not going to happen. The white...
Mr. President, thank you. You just said that these companies would have security guarantees if they go in on the ground in Venezuela.
They will have.
And what is your plan there actually for these companies and those Americans who are going to be on the ground working for these companies?
Well, there are going to be Americans. I assume they're going to be using a lot of Americans, but they're going to be using a lot of people from Venezuela and other places, I would imagine. But I would think that mostly they'll be using Venezuelan workers. They have a lot of great workers. They have a very high unemployment rate, and they have workers that are very familiar with taking oil out of the ground. Yeah.
How long do you think the Ayatollah will be in power after what we've seen play out on the ground there? When is the U.S. going to get involved now that reports of protesters being killed on the ground?
So Iran's in big trouble. It looks to me that the people are taking over certain cities that nobody thought were really possible just a few weeks ago. We're watching the situation very carefully. I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts. And that doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it means hitting them very, very hard where it hurts. So we don't want that to happen. There have been cases like this where President Obama totally backed down. But this is something pretty incredible that's happening in Iran. It's an amazing thing to watch. They've done a bad job. They've treated their people very badly, and now they're being paid back. So let's see what happens. We're watching it. We're watching it very closely. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Do you have any comments in reaction to the recent attacks by the Syrian government alignment groups against US-backed Kurdish forces in Aleppo, Syria, which killed dozens of civilians and displacing many families? Does your administration bring peace between the Kurds and the Syrian government?
I want to see peace, yes, I do. The Kurds and the Syrian government, we get along with both, as you know very well. They have been natural enemies over the years, but we get along both, and we want to see Syria succeed. And so far, I think they are succeeding, but this is just breaking out, and we want to see that stopped. Go ahead, please.
Colombia, Gustavo Petro, in a few weeks. Do you hope this meeting with Gustavo Petro marks a new chapter, a new beginning in the benefit of the U.S. and Colombia relations?
What country?
Colombia, with the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, your
I had
meeting.
a very good talk with him yesterday, and he's been very hostile to us and to the nation and to me, called me a dictator and lots of other things. Called Biden some terrible names, far worse than he called me. But he called yesterday through people, and he wants to meet, and that's fine with me. I've made up with people also, you know. So we're going to have a meeting with him. We had a very good conversation. The people of Colombia are incredible people. Marco would know that better than anybody because he's married to a woman from Colombia. And I don't mean Columbia University. That would be, I'm not sure. I think I like Colombia, the country, better, if you want to know the truth. The people are, hold it. The people are great people. I look forward to meeting with them. We're going to meet in the very near future.
President of Venezuela here in the White House. Would you greet her to discuss the fate of the oil?
Yeah, well, I'm going to meet a lot of people, and we're going to meet, you know, we meet a lot of people. When you end 8 wars, you get to know a lot of people, and I think it's very important. As an example, we have over $18 trillion, think of that, $18 trillion coming into our country. A lot of that's coming in from foreign countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar and UAE and others. And I get to meet a lot of people, but I will be meeting with various representatives of Venezuela, probably pretty soon. We haven't set that up. But the relationship that we have with the people that are currently running Venezuela is very good. We also have a young lady that received the Nobel Peace Prize. She's going to come in and pay her regards to our country, really, to me. But, you know, I'm a representative of the country, nothing else. And she's coming in sometime next week, I think Tuesday or Wednesday, and we'll see how that is. But no, we're dealing with the people from Venezuela. We're dealing with them very well. I think they've been very smart in the way they've dealt with us, frankly, because that whole place could have been obliterated with one more strike, and we didn't want to do that.
Venezuela and your meeting with Machado next week, if she gives you her Nobel Peace Prize, will that change your view about her running that country?
Well, I have to speak to her. I mean, I'm going to have to speak to her. She might be involved in some aspect of it. I will have to speak to her. I think it's very nice that she wants to come in, and that's what I understand the reason is, because Norway is very embarrassed by what took place. I mean, they're getting decimated. Look, whether people like Trump or don't like Trump, I settled 8 wars, big ones, some going on for 36 years, 32 years, 31 years, 28 years, 25 years. some just getting ready to start, like India and Pakistan, where already 8 jets were shot out of the air. And I got it done in rapid order without nuclear weapons. I can't think of anybody in history that should get the Nobel Prize more than me, and I don't want to be bragging, but nobody else settled wars. Obama got the Nobel Prize. He had no idea why. He still has no idea. He walks around, he says, I got the Nobel Prize. Why did he get a Nobel Prize? He got it almost immediately upon attaining office, and he didn't do anything, and he was a bad president. So, I mean, you should get the Nobel Prize for every war you stopped. These were major wars. These were wars that nobody thought could be stopped. President Putin called me, and he said about 2 of the wars that he's been trying to stop them for 10 years. He wasn't able to do it. He couldn't believe it. So in theory, you should get the Nobel Prize for every war you stopped. Every one of them was major. But I don't care about that. What I care about is saving lives. I've saved tens of millions of lives. You know, the Prime Minister of Pakistan came here, and he made a very public statement. He said that President Trump saved minimum 10 million lives having to do with Pakistan and India, and that was going to be raging. So, you know, but I'm honored that she's coming here. I look forward to meeting her, yes. Go ahead.
On Minneapolis, Mr. President, I have a follow-up for you. The state officials there have said that the FBI is not sharing evidence with them. Typically, they would conduct a joint investigation, as you know. Do you believe that the FBI should be sharing evidence with state officials in Minnesota?
Well, normally I would, but they're crooked officials. I mean, Minneapolis and Minnesota, what a beautiful place, but it's being destroyed. It's got an incompetent governor, fool. I mean, he's a stupid person. And it looks like the number could be $19 billion stolen from a lot of people, but largely people from Somalia. They buy their vote. They vote in a group. They buy their vote. They sell more Mercedes-Benzes in that area than almost. Can you imagine? You come over with no money, and then shortly thereafter you're driving a Mercedes-Benz. The whole thing is ridiculous. So they're very corrupt people. It's a very corrupt state. I feel that I won Minnesota. I think I won it all 3 times. Nobody's won it since Richard Nixon won it many, many years ago. I won it all 3 times, in my opinion. And it's a corrupt state, a corrupt voting state. And the Republicans ought to get smart and demand on voter ID. They ought to demand maybe same-day voting and all of the other things that you have to have safe election. But I won Minnesota 3 times, and I didn't get credit for it. I did so well in that state every time. The people were crying every time after. That's a crooked state. California is a crooked state. Many crooked states. We have a very, very dishonest voting system. The last time I won, 24, the one that just took place, I won because it was too big to rig. You couldn't rig it. It was too big. But I won the state of Minnesota. It's a corrupt voting system with an incompetent governor, a very incompetent governor. And by the way, he's a very corrupt governor, too. Go ahead.
I have a question on Iran, but first, very quickly on Venezuela. How do you provide total security guarantees to these companies without putting U.S. boots on the ground?
Well, we're going to work with the Venezuelan leaders and people, and we're going to have a very safe group, and they're going to also bring over some security with them. You know, these are not babies. These are people that drill oil in some pretty rough places. I could say a couple of those places make Venezuela look like a picnic. These people around the table, these are tough people. They go into areas that you wouldn't want to go. They go into areas that if they invited me, I'd say, no thanks, I'll see you back in Palm Beach. No, this is a tough group of people. They know how to do it. But we are, in addition to that, we'll have very good security for them. We're going to make sure there's very, very good security. And I think the people of Venezuela are going to give you very good security. You know, the people... Now, I'm not talking even leadership. The people of Venezuela are going wild over this. They named a street after President Trump. What do? You attack a country and they name a street? That's never happened before. Although I heard that's also taking place in Iran. They named a street. The protesters. I just hope, you know, just God bless them. I just hope the protesters in Iran are going to be safe, because that's a very dangerous place right now. And again, I tell the Iranian leaders, you better not start shooting, because we'll start shooting too. With your glasses, Sir, go ahead,
President,
please.
but on the,
Hold it.
Two
Next to
questions
you.
for you, both
Yes,
on
glasses.
Venezuela.
The gentleman with the glasses.
All right, thank you, Mr. President.
With those very big glasses, actually.
Yeah, Ferrari, actually. Mr. President, I have two questions. What do you want the European Union to do in Ukraine? The European leaders seem pretty divided on Ukraine. And then, if you can reiterate this straight message that you have to the Iranian leader, to Khomeini, the message that you have.
You're talking about Iran?
Oh, Iran, yeah.
What
the
do I
first one
want
is on
Iran
Europe.
to do?
I'm sorry?
Where are you from?
Italy.
Oh, nice place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. The first question
So
is
what
on
are you
Europe.
asking about Iran for?
Well, if you can answer about Europe and what you think the Europeans should do on Ukraine, and then a message.
Well, look, Europe has been doing so much for Ukraine, but it hasn't been enough. And obviously that I would say that President Putin is not afraid of Europe. He's afraid of the United States of America, as led by me. There's no fear of Europe. You know, Europe's fallen behind. And Europe, and J.D. said it very strongly. I don't know. He took a lot of heat, but I didn't give him any heat. Europe is a different place. Europe is changing. Europe has got to get its act together. I love Europe. I guess I came from Europe, essentially. My roots are in Europe, but Europe is a different place. They have to get their act together. Now they have a great NATO leader, and they've gone up to 5% from 2% GDP. That's a big step. But they have to be very careful with their immigration policy, and they have to be because, I will just say, to be nice, that there are certain places in Europe that are very important that are no longer recognizable. I'm being very nice. I'm being very diplomatic when I say that. They are not recognizable. And they have to be careful on energy because they're putting windmills all over the place and losing a fortune. They're destroying their country. They're destroying the beautiful landscapes, the beautiful everything. They're doing. And by the way, in case you people don't know, I'm not much of a windmill person. I can proudly say, Doug, that we have not approved one windmill since I've been in office, and we're going to keep it that way. My goal is to not let any windmill be built. They're losers. They lose money. They destroy your landscape. They kill your birds. They're all made in China. And all you have to do is, just about all of the windmills are made in China, the structures. All you have to do is say to China, how many windmill areas do you have in China? So far, they're not able to find any. They use coal and they use oil and gas and some nuclear, not much, but they don't have windmills. They make them and sell them to suckers like Europe and suckers like the United States before. They are the worst form of energy, the most expensive form of energy, and in 8 years they're rotted out anyway. Go take a look at Palm Springs, California, and take a look at what that looks like. It looks like a junkyard of steel. So we don't approve, and I've told my people, we will not approve windmills. Maybe we get forced to do something because some stupid person in the Biden administration agreed to do something years ago. We will not approve any windmills in this country.
On Venezuela, is it ultimately more important to you to establish stability there or democracy there?
Well, you're talking about maybe the same thing. I mean, you're talking about stability or democracy. I don't know. To me, it's almost the same thing. We want stability, but we do want democracy. Ultimately, it'll be democracy. Peter?
I do have a policy question, President Trump, but I'm having a hard time seeing here. I see the American flag lapel pin. What is the other lapel pin on
Somebody
your jacket?
gave me this. You know what that is? That's called a happy Trump. And considering the fact that I'm never happy, I'm never satisfied, I will never be satisfied until we make America great again, but we're getting pretty close, I'll tell you what. This is called a happy Trump. Somebody gave it to me, I put it on.
Thank you. And the policy question. How much money are you thinking of giving people in Greenland to get them on board with a possible U.S.
I'm not talking about money for Greenland yet. I might talk about that. But right now, we are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor. Okay? I would like to make a deal, the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way. And I'm a man, and by the way, I'm a fan of Denmark too. I have to tell you, and you know they've been very nice to me. I'm a big fan, but you know the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land. I'm sure we had lots of boats go there also, but we need that because if you take a look outside of Greenland right now, there are Russian destroyers, there are Chinese destroyers and bigger, there are Russian submarines all over the place. We're not going to have Russia or China occupy Greenland, and that's what they're going to do if we don't. So we're going to be doing something with Greenland, either the nice way or the more difficult way. Please, go ahead, ma'am.
Mr. President, why is it so important to you to own it when you have a military presence there, which you could expand to affect the security?
Because when we own it, we defend it. You don't defend leases the same way. You have to own it. And, you know, with a nation, look at what happened with Obama, with that horrible deal they made with Iran. It was a short-term deal. It was like a 9-year deal. Countries can't make 9-year deals or even 100-year deals. Countries have to have ownership. And you defend ownership, you don't defend leases. And we'll have to defend Greenland. If we don't do it, China or Russia will. It's not going to happen. We are not going to have, and I like China, I like Russia, I love the people of China, I love the people of Russia. I get along very well with President Putin, but I'm very disappointed in him. I get along very well with President Xi. I'm going to go over to China in April, but I don't want them as a neighbor in Greenland. Not going to happen. And by the way, and NATO's got to understand that. I'm all for NATO. I saved NATO. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have a NATO right now. But we're not going to allow Russia or China to occupy Greenland, and that's what's going to happen if we don't. Go ahead.
Mr. President, one, can you respond to that? And two,
It was an amazing report. The most amazing thing is government jobs are way down. And yet the unemployment or the employment numbers are very good. We've gotten rid of tremendous numbers of federal government jobs. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And yet the employment numbers are very good. They're really getting better. But now we have all those people to work in the private sector for a lot more money. I think that's one of the very big things. The other thing is at 5.4%. And remember, this is after we had a shutdown. And that shutdown had an impact because the concept of the shutdown, even though it's before, people knew we were going to be shutting down. A lot of bad things happened. And by the way, on January 30th, you may have another shutdown. We'll see what happens. But I think the numbers, Caitlin, were really amazing. Look, to think about 5.4%, nobody thought that. They thought it was going to be 2%. And you know what it is? It's tariffs. And it's also November 5th. We had a great election. A great election. Our country was dead 1.5 years ago, and now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. And I hope you guys were impressed. 5.4%, and we haven't even really transitioned yet. There's no reason it can't be much, much higher than that. Yeah.
first off, can you respond to the manufacturing
Let's
numbers?
give CNN a chance. You know, they've been fighting so hard to get back into the mainstream.
Mr. President, you posted some numbers actually on Truth Social last night. People saying you posted the job data early when you're not supposed to obviously share it till the next morning. Did you do that on purpose?
No, I don't know. If they posted them, I said post them whenever you get a chance. I don't know. They gave me some numbers. When people give me things, I post them. But the numbers are amazing. Yeah, please.
How does the administration plan to distribute the money from the Venezuela oil sales? Is it, obviously you say it's going to go into these controlled accounts.
Yeah.
Would it go back to Venezuela in a
Yeah.
direct payment? Is it going through these goods? How do you plan to do that?
Well,
And
we
then I have
want
a
to make
second
sure
question.
that Venezuela can survive. You know, Venezuela needs money, and we're going to make sure that they get money, and we're going to get money, and the oil companies are going to make something for the work they do, and they're going to get back their money. We're devising a formula, but it won't be so much of a formula. It's going to be what they need. We're going to take care of what they need. There'll be plenty left over. We're going to have a lot of money left over. And the money left over is going to the United States of America, and the oil companies are going to be very happy. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr.
My second question is, would the administration offer a backstop to these oil companies for like financial guarantees, some sort of backstop, if the country did destabilize again?
That's a very interesting question. Using the word backstop, I haven't heard that word in a long time. That was at the Wharton School of Finance I last heard. That's a good term. We ought to use it more often. I hope I don't have to give a backstop. I'm just, look, these are very smart people, the smartest people. They're not only in oil and business. These are the biggest companies in the world sitting around this table. They know the risks. I mean, there are risks. We're going to help them out. We're going to make it real easy. They're going to be there for a long time. We're going to be there together for a long, long time. And they're going to be taking the oil, and they're going to be bringing oil prices down. They're going to make a lot of money. They're going to get their money back. They're going to be safe. The people of Venezuela are going to be big beneficiaries, and the United States of America is going to be a big beneficiary for what we've done. And you know, one other thing I might say, it's also very big for national security because, again, just like Greenland, we can't have China or Russia occupy Greenland. We can't have China or Russia occupy Venezuela. And if we didn't do what we did, China or Russia would have been in Venezuela. I think I can, where's Mr. Chevron? So let me ask you, they would have been there if we didn't do this. Do you agree with that?
They certainly have a lot of economic interests in country. There's absolutely no argument about that.
They were trying to be there. I mean, you know, we had a Russia, I guess sort of I call it a semi-Russian ship yesterday that we took over, and Russia decided not to defend that ship against us. It's a big movement. The ship was loaded up with oil, and we took the oil, and it came out of that port. But Russia would be there or China would be there. And we want them to be there for a different reason. We want them, do you people agree? In particular, China, they need a lot of oil. Russia doesn't need so much, but Russia was there anyway. But I assume you agree that China would like to be doing a lot of business there by buying oil. And I want to just tell President Xi and President Putin, but more so in this case, President Xi, because they do need a lot of oil. And we are open for business in the United States, and we are open for business in Venezuela, right? Go ahead, sure.
Mr. President,
you know,
what is your
I could take questions from these people all day long. You know, they're sitting here, and generally they're very rich, very powerful, but nobody gives a damn about them. It's a sad thing. You have all that money, all that power, and look at all these crazy questions. We could do this all day long, and they wouldn't be satisfied.
I have a question on today's meeting, Mr. President.
We'll take a few more,
I have
though.
a question on today's meeting, Mr. President.
Do you have? Let me ask you more importantly. Do you have any questions from the biggest?
Yes, sure.
Hold it. Do you have any questions for the biggest people on earth, the biggest business people, the biggest companies anywhere on earth? Do you have any questions for these people? No. Do you have a question for them? Go ahead. Go ahead. Ask them a question.
To rebuilding the oil infrastructure in Venezuela, and for the executives in the room, what do you need from the administration in order to invest?
That's a good question. Do you want to go and answer that question?
Yeah,
Exxon, small company.
I'll refer you back to the statements I made before. There are a number of legal and commercial frameworks that would have to be established to even understand what kind of returns that we'd get on the investments. So I think all the investments and the opportunity sets, I think everyone sitting around this table would have the opportunity and the know-how and the capability to make the investments. The questions will ultimately be how durable are the protections from a financial standpoint, what do the returns look like, what are the commercial arrangements, the legal frameworks, all those things have to be put in place in order to make a decision to understand what your return would be over the next several decades that these billion-dollar investments would be made on.
You know, could I do this? Because we have, again, the biggest people on the planet Earth around this table, biggest companies in the world. I'd like to just ask them to introduce themselves. We'll start from this end and go around to here. And if you have anything to quickly say, we can do that. But you want to just start right over here? These two guys, we'll leave them out because they're with us. Please.
Thank you, President Trump. John Addison at VTOL. We're here to ensure that you are going to be able to move all of this oil all around the world at the best price possible so that the influence that you have over the Venezuelans will ensure that you get what you want.
Thank you. Thank you. Good point.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brian Sheffield of Formentera. My grandfather, Hugh Sheffield, was president of ARCO, Venezuela.
Right.
Thank you for what you did.
Do you like what we're doing?
There's a lot of shale there, a lot of upside.
He would be very happy looking down. He'd be very proud of you right now, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you.
Mr. President, Luis Rodriguez. I'm probably the only Venezuelan American sitting on around this table. I want to personally thank you for the courage of your actions over the last couple of weeks. I think I speak, and I speak of Venezuela in general in saying there's optimism. You've brought optimism to the table, and if the conditions are met, the opportunity is absolutely immense.
I agree with that. That's true. Thank you. Well said, too. It's immense. This is a tremendous opportunity. Thank you.
Richard Holton from Trafigura. We're working with your administration, Mr. President, to bring that Venezuelan oil to the United States. Our first vessel should load in the next week.
Great. Good job. Thank you.
I think the reason that most of us are here and thinking about the future is because we trust you initially to set this program up that will work and guarantee that this can be done. And there's a huge investment that needs to be done. We've all agreed on that. And certainly we need time to see that through. So thank you for what you've done.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. President, I'm Lane Riggs, CEO of Valero Energy, and we're one of those companies that refineries in the U.S. are uniquely configured to run Venezuelan oil, and we're more than happy as this opportunity expands for us to further invest in our refineries to produce more of it.
And you're very much set up for the heavy oil, right?
Yes, sir.
That's great. That's great. We're ready for it.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you.
And thank you for opening the door to a better Venezuela. We are a Spanish company, but we are fully committed to invest here in the States. We have invested over the last 15 years $21 billion in the American oil and gas industry, in Pennsylvania, in the Gulf of America, in Texas, and in Alaska with the discovery of Pica that is going to have the first oil this quarter and is going to change, is going to reverse the declining history of that great state of Alaska. We are in Venezuela, Mr. President, with our partners of Eni. We produce the gas that guarantees the stability of a half of the grid power in Venezuela. So we are committed with this stability, and on top of that, we are on the ground. We have people, we have facilities, we have technical capabilities, and I take your point, Mr. President. We are ready to invest more in Venezuela. Today, we are producing 45,000 barrels a day gross of oil, and we are ready to multiply by 3 this figure in coming 2-3 years, investing hard in the country, following your recommendation, if you allow us, of course, and in the framework, commercial and legal framework that could allow this growth. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Great job you've done. Thank you.
Mr. President, thank you for having me. Matt Sheehy, I'm with Tallgrass Energy. We are an infrastructure business, so whether it's oil, gas, CO2, we move that around. So most of my customers are sitting around the table and happy to lend our expertise to what's going on in Venezuela to support the people. And obviously infrastructure is going to be critical to see it repaired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, thank you. An honor to be here. Marianne Mannon, Marathon Petroleum. We are one of the largest U.S. refiners. On behalf of the men and women of Marathon Petroleum and of our industry, thank you and the administration for what you're doing for U.S. energy independence. We have the ability and the capability of our assets to process Venezuelan crude, and the people of Marathon Petroleum stand ready to do so.
Do we need more refineries in our country?
In the U.S., probably
Yes.
not. We have sufficient capacity.
That's amazing. A lot of it was approved during my first term. We were getting you approvals that nobody could have gotten in Louisiana and other places, and they got built. Before that, it was a disaster. We didn't have the refineries. Now we do because of the first term. Please.
Darren Woods, ExxonMobil.
Okay, we'll go over here.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jeff Hildebrand, founder and chairman of Hillcorp Energy, one of the largest private energy companies in America.
Who's bigger, you or Harold?
We're close.
Huh?
We're close. Harold. Absolutely, Mr. Ham. But thank you for your great, tremendous leadership in protecting the interests in the Western Hemisphere. the message that you have sent to China and our enemies to stay out of our backyard is absolutely fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And finally, Hillcorp is fully committed and ready to go to rebuilding the infrastructure in Venezuela.
You'll go there? You'll be going?
Yes.
Good. That's good. You'll be very happy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jeff Miller, CEO of Halliburton Company. We are the largest American oilfield services company. We're the second largest in the world. Been in business over 100 years. Started operations in Venezuela in 1938. Long time in Venezuela. I personally lived there for 4 years and raised my kids there. So quite familiar with Venezuela, and just couldn't express gratitude more so for the opportunity to return to Venezuela under the stability that I know that this team and your team are able to deliver. And so
When did you leave?
Huh?
When did you leave Venezuela?
As a company, we left under the sanctions in 2019. So we had intended to stay, and then when the sanctions went into place, we were required to leave. But very much interested in returning. Have 600 Venezuelans with Halliburton today, all around the world. Look forward to putting them back to work.
Great job. Great
Thank
job.
you.
You'll be back. Please.
Mr. President, I'm Alex Cranberg. My company, Aspect Energy, is one of the leading American international wildcatters. We've found significant fields in central
Are
and
you a
south.
wildcatter?
I'm a wildcatter.
That's pretty cool, I'll tell you. I would have been a wildcatter, too, if I was in. And you've been successfully wildcatting.
We've found significant fields in Central and South America, in the Middle East, and in Europe. We're a leading
That's
oil
great.
producer in Hungary. But probably the most pertinent example is what a wildcatter does is take on risk and try to reduce it, and then other people come in and put more capital in later, so we're kind of kickstarters in the oil industry. We went into Kurdistan very early on, back when people told us it wasn't safe and we shouldn't do it. We found a big field there, and it ultimately has got to be developed along with one of my colleagues here to be one of the big leading fields in Kurdistan. We think that Venezuela has a tremendous amount of opportunity. If you look at the reinvestment